Okay, so what's going on? Why was the world created? What are we doing here? What's happening? So, we're going to try to piece a little bit of the storyline together right now, and a lot of it will come across throughout the year. Why was the world created? Well, we don't know much about the creator of the universe, and we usually describe the creator of the universe, and what we don't know about the creator isn't this, the creator isn't that. But there's one thing for sure we can say about the creator of the universe. That the creator of the universe is all good, all-encompassing goodness. In Hebrew we say kulo tov, all goodness. And the nature of goodness, how do you define good? The nature of goodness, the definition of goodness is that it's shareable. It could be shared of itself to something else. So the nature of the creator of the universe is all good. So the creator of the universe created a situation where it could bestow its goodness on something separate of itself. So the soul was created. The soul of Adam was created to receive this goodness. But immediately the soul of Adam had a complaint. It was called poor man's bread. It didn't want this free handout. It sounds fun to get something, but it's actually a little bit embarrassing. Let's say someone doesn't have so much money and they're trying to get their food for their family and they can't afford all the food, and it's Shabbat and they're eating their meal, and you know they really don't have so much food, so you knock on their door in the middle of their meal and you come over with a big casserole and you say, hey, I know you don't have so much, so I'm going to give you this casserole. It's a really nice gesture, but at the end of the day, you're actually going to be embarrassing the person because he didn't earn the casserole, and in front of his family, I don't have money, I'm taking, I need. A human wants to be proud and earn goodness that they live in, that they achieve. That's the ultimate level. So Adam, the soul, has a complaint called poor man's bread, says, I don't want this goodness. I want to earn this goodness. So the creator of the universe responds and says, no problem. We're going to put you in a scenario where you could earn the goodness. We'll have a garden and a tree in the garden, and if you don't eat from the tree, you'll have done something, and by doing that, you will then earn the goodness. And a whole deal was set up, and Adam agreed, and in place was put what we call in Hebrew the mekatreg. In English, we can call it the accusing force. There was a reality that held accountability to Adam to make sure he earned his good. And this was basically a manifest of Adam's will. Adam wanted this to happen. Adam could have had the free hand. Adam said no. All of a sudden, Adam and Eve, they eat from the tree, and deal should be off. Let's say I hire someone to paint my house. They don't paint my house, I don't pay them. So there was a deal. Don't eat from the tree. You get the goodness, you eat from the tree. No goodness, the world should be destroyed. So there's one thing that God did, the creator of the universe did, to allow the world to continue. This accusing force, which was seeking holiness or light that was unearned, was now about to confiscate it. And the creator said, I can remove myself from the picture, and this goodness will be lost in the world, and this accusing force will be preoccupied going after it and not call the world into me and say it's time to wrap it up. So this is what happens. It sounds crazy, but this is the legend, and if you look in the Torah, this actually makes sense as the storyline. The creator of the universe removes himself from the picture, and all of a sudden we have a scenario of Adam alone in this world with Eve, and there's such a thing called goodness that has to come, this redemption that has to come to fix the situation, and this force is looking for it. It's looking to capture it. So we see Adam is actually an acronym for Adam, David, Meshiach, Aleph, Daled, Mem, which means the seed of Meshiach existed in Adam in potential, and this force was looking to blot it out and confiscate it. So the purpose of reality was now to get from Adam to Meshiach uninterrupted, without being noticed, like a needle in a haystack. And if you look at some of the biggest stories in the Torah, it's literally having this theme played out through itself. First of all, the first story of the Torah, you have Cain and Abel. One of these two likely has the seed of the Meshiach, the seed of David to Messiah inside of them. Which one, we don't know. But one of them do. They're both the offspring of Adam, so one of them should have the seed. So all of a sudden there's a litmus test. They both offer sacrifices. One is accepted and one isn't accepted. So it must be the one whose sacrifice was accepted. He has the holiness, he has the light, and all of a sudden this accusing force goes into Cain, makes him insane, and he goes and kills Abel to blot it out. The Torah is teaching us the name of the game. There's a serious, serious force taking and confiscating light that's unearned. So the light has to stay hidden, undetected. And all of a sudden, Seth is born later on. It was a sneak attack. The light was actually in Seth. The seed of the Messiah was in Seth. And from Seth comes Abraham, comes Isaac, and comes Jacob. But the stories of the Torah are strange, some of them. For example, you see when Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed, Lot flees with his daughters and his wife. His wife turns to a pillar of salt. He's now on the mountaintop with his daughters. They think they're the last people alive on the planet, so they seduce their father with wine, and they get him drunk, and they have children from him, and from this comes the two nations Moab and Ammon, the Moabites and the Ammonites. Moab meaning Me'av, from my father, showing the incestuous relationship as their brand. They were proud of it. But something interesting happens. Later on in history, there's a famous Moabite that converts, Ruth, the Moabite. She converts and she marries Boaz, and they end up becoming the great-grandparents of King David, and from him comes the Messiah. So all of a sudden you see, wait a minute, our Messiah, our Meshiach, our Holy of Holies was born from incest? What's going on? And I was taught that usually your question is the answer. So instead of saying, how is it possible that the Meshiach was born from incestuous relationship, we now have the information to see that as the answer. The Meshiach must have been born from an incestuous relationship, so it stays hidden from this accusing force and unnoticeable, because this accusing force would never think that this situation would lead to something so holy. And we see other stories in the Torah like this as well, with Yehuda and Tamar, where she dresses up as a harlot and a prostitute, and she seduces Yehuda, and she gets his seed. And it ended up being allowed by Torah law because Levirate marriage, she was due to marry Judah or someone from his family because her first husband died childless. But Judah didn't know it was her at the time, and it was this whole backwards story, and from this comes the Meshiach. The line of the Meshiach has to be and always will be and has stayed hidden throughout history. First of all, just before I continue, if holiness is hidden and we can't always know where it is, it's really important that we love all humans and not judge them by how they appear, because for all you know, there's something very holy happening over there, and we're like, oh, this guy's shady, or this is a shady situation. We don't know what's going on. It's one big Purim story. So the best thing is to down the kaf zechut, to judge people favorably, and not to play judgment role, because then we just bring judgment ourselves. It's a bad trip. We don't want to go there. However, there is a legend that in the future, this evil inclination, this accusing force, will be annihilated and will be free again to live in a state of godliness and a state of divine being. And that's the hope and goal over here. Now we're left alone with this evil inclination in the world. We have a part of us that is animalistic, that just seeks survival and is self-destructive and is not deeply interested in what's genuinely good. It's why someone could eat something unhealthy. He's not genuinely interested in something good, because if he was, he would do something right. But we're not. Our natural instinct is to go after temptation and pleasure. For some people, that's not your issue, and then you're very lucky. But the basic function and history of humanity is to seek after our temptations and our pleasures. And we actually see that also in the word Adam. Not only is it an acronym embedded within the secret of how the seed gets passed through history, but also Adam is made up of two components, Aleph and Dam. Aleph meaning the one, the soul, referring to our divine. Dam in Hebrew means blood. If you remember from the Seder on Passover, Dam, Tzvardeya. Dam is blood, representing the physical body. So we are actually two in one. We are a soul and a body, an animalistic drive, stuck in one reality called ourselves. And for some people, it drives them mad. Some people trying to tame the beast out there, and it's a whole entire hustle. It's like having a pet dog, kind of. You got to train the dog, otherwise the dog's going to be a nightmare for you. It's going to go to the bathroom all through your house. It's going to bite other people when you're in town. You got to keep the dog in check. So the animalistic drive inside of us is like a pet that we have to really used to our advantage. A dog could be a nuisance, but a dog could also be your man's best friend. If I'm camping out with my friends at night and I want to go to sleep, I would be pretty scared a mountain lion may attack me, but hey, if I have a good pet dog, that's the best security system in the world. So you see, your animalistic drives can be used as in an elevated way, or it could really be a nuisance to your nachat ruach, to your chill, to your energy, to your vibe, however you want to call it. On that note, we're going to go into a fascinating teaching right now about the future of this evil inclination and why its demise comes, and how I think that we're really living in the time that this is speaking about. And let's jump right in. So we see here in Genesis 32:4-5, Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. So Jacob's going to meet Esau. It says meeting. Jacob's scared. Esau wants to kill Jacob. He stole the birthright. There's a whole situation. And so then he says, thus shall you say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I stayed with Laban and remained until now. What kind of thing is that? Like, you're finally going to meet your enemy and you're like, hey, I just stayed with Laban. Like, what's going on here? There's something much deeper going on here. So Rashi says something to try to explain it. He says, Garti, the word for I have sojourned, is actually the numerical value of 613, which is Taryag, which is the amount of commandments in the Torah, meaning to say, though I sojourned with Laban, the wicked, I have observed Taryag mitzvot. I kept the 613 divine commandments, and I have learned naught of his evil ways. The commentators of Israel have a question on this Rashi. What difference does it make to Esau if Jacob kept the Torah or not? Furthermore, wouldn't it be the opposite, that Esau would come to hate him like an anti-Semitic thing? Oh, so you kept the Torah? Now I'm going to hate you even more. So what's going on here? Why was that Jacob's strategy to let Laban know I kept the Torah? The answer appears clear to me, this is what the writer says, based on the teaching of the holy Baal Shem Tov. May his merit rest upon us as he explains a deeper insight regarding the below conversation from the Talmud. We're going to go into a tricky Talmud right now, but then we're going to explain it, so hold on. The Talmud says, we learned in a Mishnah, among those liable for performing primary categories of labor. We discussed last week's video, there's 39 categories of labor needed to build the tabernacle in the desert, and those are the things we cannot do on Shabbat. And for one who slaughters, someone who slaughters an animal on Shabbat, the Gemara says, there was no slaughter necessary for the construction of the tabernacle, so why was someone who slaughters liable for slaughtering? So Rav says is liable due to dying because he's going to take the hide from the animal and dye it. Some say the blood's going to go on the ground and dye the ground. As in the course of the slaughter, the hide is dyed with blood. And Shmuel said he is liable due to taking a life. Okay? Something you cannot do. And the Tosfos says, many hundreds of years ago, the slaughterer discussed here is not the same one we discussed in the Mishnah. We're not talking about a guy who just slaughters an animal on Shabbat. There's something else. This is speaking about slaughtering in general. This is a very tricky Tosfot. He's saying there's a different case of slaughtering, someone who's not slaughtering for himself, but slaughtering for others. It's a general slaughtering. We have a lot of questions on this, but to explain what you just read, we're going to bring in another quote from the Talmud. It says in the Talmud, Sukkah 52a, Rabbi Yehuda taught, in the future, in the end of days, God will bring the evil inclination, which is this accusing force that we spoke about before, and slaughter it in the presence of the righteous and in the presence of the wicked. We have to understand, why is Hashem slaughtering the evil inclination? Wasn't this its purpose in its creation, to tempt humans in order that there be a reward and accountability in this world? Didn't we just learn that this force came into the world because we asked for it? So why is it getting punished? Why is it getting slaughtered? And that due to him there will be much greatness and preciousness in store for Israel in the world to come. Like he's hooking us up. Because of him we're going to earn goodness. Seemingly the evil inclination was appointed to do this specifically. So the holy Baal Shem Tov, may his merit rest upon us, teaches. The matter here is that the evil inclination agitates humans to chase after their temptations. He then sees that Israel acts in an elevated way, and they don't accept his words. So what does he do? He colors his, make himself appear to be promoting something that is a commandment or a good reality. Whoa. However, in truth, he was created to tempt humans to sin and violate the will of the Creator, and not to appear as righteous and a good reality that disguises or colors its sin as good and justifies them as commandments and good deeds. And because of this, the evil inclination will be found guilty and punished in the future to come. And now we can explain from the Talmud what we spoke about above when it says, why is this slaughter liable? And then the Tosfos comes in and says, we're talking about slaughters in general. What's going on here? Over here, there's a hint referring to the evil inclination who slaughters the whole world and corrupts pure souls via seducing them into a world of sin, of missing the point. So when the Talmud is wondering, why is he liable? Isn't this what he was created for? We then see the answer is he is liable for dying. What does that mean, dying? Coloring? As if to say that he is coming in the visage of the inclination of goodness, and he is really dying, coloring his face, as if this reality he is pitching really is good. And then this is why Shmuel, above in the Talmud, says his opinion that the evil inclination is liable due to taking a life. He is considered taking a life because he is successful in tripping up humanity and missing the point. And from this, humanity gets disconnected from its pure soul, and for this he was not created. Therefore, he is liable in regards to his mission here. Fascinating. Until here are his words. And this matter is a simple one. Behold is a very simple practical difference in regards to if a human is really doing a sin, or if he thinks he's doing a commandment and still sinning. Even if the evil inclination is successful in causing an Israelite to sin, after the sin, the person now sees clearly and immediately has regret and arouses his heart and repents and returns in full back to a state of being one with the Creator. You know, it's like if someone eats pork, afterwards they'll feel a little guilty, or if we hope they do, if they have enough sensitivity to say, hey, you know what, there's something Moses taught and my ancestors passed it down for thousands of years, and I'm kind of disregarding it. We hope someone feels that they're actually doing that, but we're living in a time where that's not a simple thing, and we're not judging. It's a tough time. Mental health's the son of a gun also. This isn't the case, however, when the evil inclination tricks a human to thinking something is good when it is really evil, because this person doesn't repent, and they don't know something was done or is wrong. So we see two different ways how the evil inclination wants to misdirect man or humanity. The first way is that it attempts to cause man to violate a simple code of Moses from the Torah, and the second way, which isn't trying to get a human to sin, rather it causes a human to see the sin as a mitzvah itself. In light of this second way, we see it's much more dangerous, because if a person doesn't have the clarity to see the sins they're living in, then forever the doors of returning to the divine are closed to him and her. I mean, we see this very prevalent today of culture of just saying, hey, you know, this is right and this is right, and if you don't believe it, we're canceling you. So they're taking things that may actually be wrong and evil and corrupting society and saying this is the right thing, and if you're not doing it, you're out. So they flipped it on us. And we can see this with a lot of examples. And therefore, because of this information, it's fitting to refer to the evil inclination as Laban, who he stayed by, when he says, Eden Laban Garti. And therefore, because of this information, it's fitting to refer to the evil inclination as Laban. When Jacob said, Im Laban Garti, he actually did live with a man named Laban, but he was also embedding a code here. As well, the name Pharaoh. The name Pharaoh also is a name to refer to the evil inclination. Laban, because it whitens. The name Laban in Hebrew also means to launder, to wash, to whiten, and dyes a sin from red to white. So Laban means to wash something, whitewash. As it says on a sin, that is indeed a commandment. And in regards to Pharaoh, it's fitting because the Hebrew word for the name of Pharaoh comes from the Hebrew word periah, which has a meaning of to be set abound without counsel, to be let loose, to be uncovered, revealed, as we could see in bold from the scriptures. Moses saw that the people were out of control, let abound, since Aaron had let them get out of control, so that they were a menace to any who may oppose them. So the name Paro in Hebrew also means to just be openly, outright sinning. And here there is a hint to how the first manner the evil inclination functions that we mentioned above, in which there is no masking or coloring the sin, proclaiming it to be righteous. Rather, it simply tempts the Israelite to sin knowingly. And this is what Jacob, our forefather, loved by heaven, was telling his brother Esau when he said, with Laban I lived, im Laban Garti. The explanation is that Jacob really was saying, even the evil inclination, which is an aspect of Laban, and causes an illusion of a sin to be good, I dwelled. I lived in that reality. and I kept the 613 commandments the whole time, as Rashi of blessed memory had explained. And he was not able to convince me of a false reality that this sin is a commandment, as I kept only the 613 commandments. So I lived in a place where humans were making false realities seem as a good thing, which we could see today in society, and I stayed strong. I didn't get fazed. I didn't get tripped up by it. And with this, we can answer our initial question of what difference does it make to Esau if Jacob kept the commandments of the Torah or not? With what we just said above, it makes perfect sense that Jacob was coming to Esau to inform him that he was the manifest of the evil inclination himself and wanted to get across to him, to Esau, and not to try to convince Jacob of any wrongful activities, God forbid, by making them appear as good. Because I very well know the difference between a commandment and a sin, since I lived with Laban, implying he lived with someone who did just that and convinced everyone around him to follow his ways. And even with all that, I stayed true and kept just the 613. This is a message of strength for all of us. We're living in a society today where we're getting tremendous pressure to agree to popular opinions that actually may be totally backwards and insane. Stay in the lane of our ancestors with their information and their wisdom, and do not get swept up in some Roman Esau level propaganda trying to convince you of a total backwards reality and calling it straight and normal. Stay strong, Amen.